All right, let's get into it. It is deep dive time. We'll answer the chat once more before this show is through, but let's go and do our deep dive right here, right now. The 2018 Denver Broncos. We kind of have a split line with Denver. You can bet over 7 with heavy juice to the over, or you can bet 7.5, pretty close to pick 'em. So I don't even know what I graphic it. I might have graphic it at 7 or 7.5. You can find either one depending on what you're looking for. Obviously, if you're betting under, you want under 7.5. If you're betting over, you probably want over 7. 50 cents worth of juice equates to approximately half a win. Hence, you can figure out where the best value is as you shop around for your wager. So this is a team line 7.5 this year. Last year, they were 5-11, an unmitigated and complete disaster. Vance Joseph survived for a second season, and I give John Elway credit for doing that. If you pick your guy, you don't bail on him after one season when you had no quarterback and no offensive line. Offense coordinator Bill Musgrave will now have a full offseason to install his offense. He took over from Mike McCoy mid-season last year for a squad that, again, 5-11 straight up, 4-11-1 against the spread, 8-8 over under. What was wrong with them? Look, they were middle of the pack in offense. They were middle of the pack in defense. They were actually better than average against pass defense. But the issue, 17 takeaways, 34 giveaways, a minus 17 turnover margin. That was second worst in the NFL, and you didn't want to be the worst team in the NFL. That was Cleveland. Pass defense still in the top 10, but the pass rush wasn't there. Number 22 in sacks, hence the lack of turnovers created. And the offense, how do we say it, Ian? It was a disaster from day one. They rallied back. Remember that Monday Night Football game against the Chargers week 1 where they rallied from behind to win? That was like the highlight of the season for that Denver offense. It wasn't pretty at any point.
No, it wasn't. And offense was definitely at fault. And you're seeing quotes from the Denver Broncos players that they're happy, they're at ease, that they finally got their number one quarterback. There's not a guessing game. There's not is it Simeon? Is it a Paxton Lynch? Is it some guy they find off the street and throw in there? No, it's Case Keenum that's going to be their quarterback this season. My question going into this season is Case Keenum, remember, didn't really do anything of significance with the Rams. Didn't really perform with any sort of significance or productivity with the Texans. All of a sudden ends up in Minnesota, gets the opportunity to be the starting quarterback, and he was terrific, down the stretch. There's no question about that until, of course, the NFC Championship game against the Eagles, but the whole team was bad in that game. Was Case Keenum's performance last year with the Vikings, was it a product of him finally finding his way, being a late bloomer as a number one quarterback in this league, or was he just on the right team at the right time? Minnesota's got an elite head coach in Mike Zimmer, an elite defense, an upgraded offensive line going into last season. Keenum didn't have to do too much, didn't have to outscore the opponent every single week. Just do enough, don't make the mistakes, let the defense take care of the rest. Much different situation here in Denver. You have a bad offensive line, or at least a subpar offensive line. Pro Football Focus ranked them 23rd offensive line last year, second most sacks allowed in the NFL last year, fourth most quarterback pressures allowed last season by this Denver offensive line. You've got a running back core that is totally and completely, utterly unproven going into this season. Devontae Booker was injured last year. Royce Freeman and D'Angelo Harrison behind him, two unproven commodities. You got wide receivers that, at least in Emmanuel Sanders' case, he's getting a little longer in the tooth now, an older player. So there's question marks about the pieces around this Denver offense to put Case Keenum in a position to succeed to the best of his ability. I like Musgrove a lot. I think he's a good offensive coordinator, but there's still a jury out type of thing going on for me here with Case Keenum and his ability to succeed in Denver.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that, but I do look at the Broncos' skill position and say this team's okay. Keenum will be better than Paxton. A bad Keenum will be better than Paxton Lynch. It'll be better than Osweiler was 2 years ago. I mean, it's been a bad situation for Denver at QB over the last couple of years. Simeon was, whatever. God-awful quarterback play. Emmanuel Sanders, great quote. I went out to the team store and I saw Case Keenum's jersey. I was like, thank God I don't have to deal with that again. Case is our guy. So Keenum can only be an upgrade. The question is how much of an upgrade he's going to be. He may only be a minor upgrade, and Denver's offense may still not work. There are still questions about the offensive line for Denver. But Keenum is an upgrade over whatever they had, certainly from a confidence standpoint. This is a guy that coached, that quarterbacked the team to the NFC Championship game last year, and Denver didn't have anything resembling a quarterback that could quarterback them to a championship game a season ago. Defensively, there are some issues with Denver. And again, this defense declined somewhat last year. They shipped out Aqib Talib in the offseason. But you look at what they brought in. You bring in Bradley Chubb, the number 1 draft choice out of North Carolina State. I love the 3rd-round pick, Isaac Yiadom out of BC at the cornerback position. You bring in Sua Cravens at safety, and they still have Chris Harris and Bradley Roby as elite-level cornerbacks. Not to mention, they brought in Jermaine Brock. They got Clinton McDonald on the defensive line. This defense added a fair bit of talent, and you throw in draft choices again. We talked about Chubb at the top and then Yiadom in the 3rd round. They also got Cortland Sutton out of SMU, who has potential to be an impact player, and Royce Freeman, as you mentioned, at running back. I don't worry about the young RBs. I think they drafted very, very well, and I think Denver, coming into the campaign, looks a good notch or two better than they did a season ago. But schedule-wise, this is where Denver is kind of interesting. The AFC West faces against the NFC West and the AFC North. So there's not a ton of travel for the Broncos. They do have to travel back east to face the Jets, and Houston comes to Denver. That's their 2 extra games. But the Broncos, schedule-wise, AFC West as a whole, not a particularly tough division. And Denver's schedule looks to me, Ian, like they have a chance at least to get back into the mix when it comes to postseason contention.
It comes down to Keenum for me, and I've said that right now in the chat. I mean, to me, can he show that Minnesota was not a blip, was not a one-off? He's ready to be a number 1 quarterback, ready to succeed. Hopefully the Denver offensive line is better. That was a problem last year. Hopefully the skill position talent gets strengthened. Sutton can come in, and as you mentioned, Teddy, and make an impact so that one of these running backs can step up. The defense is going to be very good, and there is question marks outside this division. We know the LA Chargers. What are you going to get out of them for a full season? Injuries always seem to bite them. Kansas City turn into a new quarterback. The Oakland Raiders, is John Gruden ready to turn back the clock and all of a sudden show that he can lead this team to prominence again? Question marks all over the division. So in that regard, maybe there is a door open for Denver.
Like the show? Help us keep the lights on. Please make sure to comment, share, and subscribe to all the Sportsbook Review videos. Thanks so much. Best of luck. Enjoy the game.